Hi, welcome to Hollywood. This is Josh.
And this is Carter. We are coming to you recorded from our palatial internet palace. And on this podcast, we are going to discuss the WWE Hall of Fame.
That's right. Coming up soon is the WWE's 2015 class, headlined by Macho Man Randy Savage.
And it is about time the Macho Man was inducted to where he so rightly belongs.
Ooh, yeah. That was terrible.
The stars, Venus, Pluto, Saturn, yeah, Elizabeth. That's Macho Man was one of the few people out of the wrestling industry that was able to cross-pollinate between wrestling and pop culture. Only a handful of wrestlers have been able to do that, but you ask the average American who the Macho Man was, and they know.
He was up there with of the 80s. He was up there with like Stone Cold and the Stone Cold Steve Austin, and The Rock. Like he was that.
He was that well known, incredibly iconic, numerous commercials, iconic part in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Bonesaw McGraw. Bonesaw McGraw.
So what we're going to do, this year is in Santa Clara, California, home of the San Francisco 49ers. Next year in Dallas, Texas. Arlington, Texas, home of the Dallas Cowboys. America's team.
Yeah, like the Cowboys or not, that stadium is one pretty stadium.
Jerry's World.
Where they're going to try to fit over 100,000 people into their stadium.
Hanging from the rafters.
And, it's possible it's going to be really hard, and I think they're actually going to end up giving away all those nosebleed seats to up. Because I was at WrestleMania 17 in front of 68,000 people. I had first balcony seats, and I could still barely see the ring. The only thing I really remember seeing in the wrestling match was the spear that Edge hit from the ladder. And when Spike Dudley took a dive off the ladder onto the floor.
Poor Spike.
Yeah. So they're going to try to do that next year. So that means the Hall of Fame ceremony should either be in the stadium or at least within that general area, maybe in the Cowboys practice field. Who knows?
It might be like where the Dallas Mavericks play, I would think.
Could be. They've had a habit of putting it in the stadium, but they only sell out like a quarter of it.
Yeah.
They'll put a small stage there to do everything, which is very nice. But we're going to focus on who we would have inducted next year.
Yeah, we'll play Vince McMahon.
Or Hunter.
Yeah, true.
Because Hunter, for all his faults, he was responsible for getting Bruno Sammartino to sign off.
And the Ultimate Warrior.
And Warrior, he was able to bridge the gap between Warrior and the WWE, which was really saying something after the destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD came out.
Yeah, they tried to bury the Warrior's legacy with that DVD release.
And now they're trying to bury the fact that that DVD existed.
Yeah, it's
you're not going to see that in the WWE Network.
It's about as hard to find as the Crispin Wall DVD.
It's actually on YouTube.
Really? The Warrior?
I don't
DVD?
know if it's still up there, but it was a year ago. Because right when he was getting inducted, I was like, you know what? I need to watch this again.
It's pretty mean.
It was very mean, but a lot of it was, there was a lot of truth in what they said. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Warrior wasn't always the easiest guy to get along with.
No, I always liked the Ultimate Warrior. That was the guy. The guy was the guy that got me into wrestling. I'll admit it.
I won't admit that. The guy who got me was the $1 Million Man and the Legion of Doom. That was the responsibility for me.
Good guys. All
yeah.
All Hall of Famers.
all Hall of Famers. If you're going to get into wrestling, at least it was done by a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So we're going to split this into categories. We'll start at the bottom of the card, so to speak.
Celebrity. Yeah, celebrity category. Always a very controversial category because I don't like the fact that celebrities are inducted into the Hall of Fame because a lot of the people they've gotten in celebrity,
very few deserve it. Right? Yeah. Very few.
Very few. Like when Drew Carey was inducted.
Oh God, he was in the Royal Rumble for all of 10 seconds. Eliminated himself.
Smiled and nodded the entire time. I was just like, this is horrible. Why are you doing this? It kind of spits on, like, last year, Mr. T was inducted.
Yeah.
Which I hate the fact that it was, but at the same time, Mr. T was in 2 WrestleManias.
Main event of the original.
Yeah, and it was a big reason for their buy rate. He was a hugely popular character at the time.
Yeah.
So
my pick,
yeah, Mr. T.
I'll tell you, because we're talking about WrestleMania 1, right? The original.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. T was half of the. Well, there's probably 3 people that were at the top.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali, Mr. T, and my pick is Cyndi Lauper.
Cyndi Lauper is a good pick and definitely deserving of her entry into the Hall of Fame for what she did. Especially, she had a music video with Captain Lou.
Yeah, a lot of cameos in that. I think it's on the Goonies Blu-ray, so it is the music video. You'll see Roddy Piper and Iron Sheik, a lot of guys on there. Classy Freddie Blassie, I think.
Which Piper's stuff with Cyndi Lauper was priceless.
Did he kick her in the head at one point?
I don't think he kicked her in the head, but he destroyed a picture of hers.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was just a very iconic movement and got a lot of people's attention. So,
at the time,
I could definitely.
Cyndi Lauper was like, who would be the biggest? Like Nicki Minaj of today, or maybe even bigger than that. She was the top of yeah. So that's what she was in the music industry, and she crossed over into wrestling. I think she brought a lot of fans with her, a lot of media attention, MTV.
She helped that huge crossover, and every WrestleMania usually focuses on a celebrity or two. It looks like this year we're going to see Jon Stewart in some form or fashion.
Yeah, from The Daily Show.
Yeah, with his ongoing thing with Rollins right now is really picking up some steam and getting some good headlines too. TMZ, CNN, a lot of people are paying attention to that. So anytime people are paying attention to the business, it's a good thing. My pick for the celebrity category for next year would be, it's going to be controversial, but I'm going to go with Sir Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor's past, in the last few years has been a bit checkered. However, that match he had with Bam Bam Bigelow at WrestleMania got a lot of attention. And honestly, Lawrence Taylor was better than anybody kind of predicted.
He was a tremendous athlete,
He was a tremendous athlete. And unfortunately, didn't do Bam Bam's career any favors. It's really hard for when a celebrity comes in non-wrestler who beats an actual wrestler, it's hard for that wrestler to actually overcome that.
Yeah.
Because it just diminishes their quality. And Bam Bam's, status never got back to where it was after that, unfortunately. Honestly, my pick was going to be Pete Rose, but I've forgotten Pete Rose. It got inducted like 10 years ago.
It got a tombstone by Kane on a few Mania cards.
That should have never ended. That should have been at every WrestleMania.
It'd still be.
It should be going on.
I'd mark out for it.
Yeah, it's Pete Rose, man. But my pick would be Lawrence Taylor. I thought it was a very strong move. And yeah, he's had a controversial past couple of years. But, Hulk Hogan had a sex tape released.
Yeah.
So, not everybody's...
it's a sex tape, brother.
Not everybody who's in the Hall of Fame is squeaky clean.
That's right. Next up, the card, non-wrestler. Now, this can be a manager. This could be an announcer, etc. My pick is behind the scenes. Jim Johnston, who did almost any iconic WWE theme song you could think of. Jim Johnston, I mean, like Stone Cold Steve Austin's theme, D-Generation X, The Undertaker, just almost The Rock, anybody you can think of the last 30 years, he's probably been behind it.
I would definitely second Jim Johnston being inducted. He definitely deserves it for all the work he's put in. I'm going to go with Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman may be active, but honestly, Heyman deserves it. He has done every facet. He's been a manager. He's been an advocate. He's been a writer. He's been a photographer. He's ran a company. He is legend.
Yeah.
And I'm a Paul Heyman guy.
I'm also a Paul Heyman guy.
You know,
I think him being on TV even currently, like how much smugger that would make him.
Yeah. My name is Paul Heyman, and I am a WWE Hall of Famer, and that kind of writes itself.
Yeah.
You know, and Jim Ross got inducted while he was still announcing.
The King also, Jerry the King Lawler.
King did too, so I don't see why Paul Heyman couldn't be awarded the same thing. You know, Heyman's meant a lot to the business over the years, and his biggest accomplishment is always going to be ECW.
Yeah, definitely. He pretty much ran that ship for years.
And we'll find a link to it and put it up with the podcast. There's one of my favorite promos of all time. It was during the Invasion angle, where Heyman cut a promo on Vince just calling him out on stealing everything that he did with ECW. And you could tell like a lot of it was personal. And a lot of it was about drinking that Heyman Kool-Aid, and we all drink it.
Yeah.
You know, every wrestler that worked for him and every fan of ECW drank Heyman's Kool-Aid. The guy could literally do no wrong. Not only that, he is the last vestige of what a manager is supposed to be anymore.
Yeah, he puts the attention on Brock Lesnar as opposed to himself.
Yeah, he understands that the role of the manager is to get the talent over. And, it's hard talent anymore. Bobby Heenan really understood it. Mr. Fuji understood it. The Grand Wizard understood it. Lou Albano understood it, and it's not something you have anymore, and people are afraid it's too wrestling.
Yeah. Like Jimmy Hart, he would put he'd have airbrushed each of his guys. Like if he came out with the Nasty Boys, it'd be airbrushed. If he came out with Money Incorporated, it'd be airbrushed. Like he made his guys look really special. You know what I mean?
Hogan, same thing.
Yeah.
And Heyman, did wonders with CM Punk, and Punk didn't need him.
Yeah, Punk's good on the mic. I mean, he's one of the best ever on the mic.
Yeah, Punk did not need him. But him being with Heyman just made it that much better. Because you took the two biggest mouths in wrestling and got them working with each other.
Well, it helps because with Punk, the audience has a tendency, even when Punk was really bad, to still like him. But Paul Heyman has that way to rubbing people. Well, they'll always boo Paul Heyman in most towns.
Yeah, and he could easily get over, and his character has transcended so many times. Paulie Dangerously, when he was carrying around a large brick cell phone that he stole from Zach Morris.
I love that gimmick.
Which actually he got that idea, the idea of the cell phone from Wall Street, watching Michael Douglas.
He's like, that'd be some heat. The Dangerous Alliance, Stone Cold was in that, and he was stunning.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, check that on WWE Network for the low price.
Great if you can.
$9.99.
Yeah, if you can watch the Paul Heyman documentary that's also posted on there, My Name is Paul Heyman. I watched it the other day, and it just goes through his entire career up to this point, and it's a really good piece, what they did. Now, a lot of things surprised me of how he got into the business, and all of it was a giant hustle.
Yeah.
So it was really that great of a story. So, yeah, I think anybody with that kind of career is an instant Hall of Famer.
Definitely.
All right. Now that we've got that one out of the way, let's move on to the women's / diva category.
All right. I went with one of the top divas of the Attitude Era. It's actually Brock Lesnar, who we mentioned earlier, his current wife.
And I'm guessing you're going with Sable.
Sable. Rena Mero.
Sable.
Or actually, I guess she'd be Rena Lesnar now. Yeah, Sable. Was a huge draw for them. Like segment, her segments would always do well. She was on multiple Playboy covers.
It was, and that's something I never really understood myself. I never found her the least bit entertaining.
I never did either. Like
that was just my personal taste.
I thought Sunny had a charisma, and I thought Terry Reynolds had a lot of charisma, but I didn't feel it from Sable either. But for her contributions, as how popular she was during that time, that's why she's my pick. And the women's title coming back after the whole Alundra Blaze / Medusa mess, it brought it back with her feud with Jacqueline. So I mean that's a pretty big contribution. That
is a big contribution. I can definitely see where anyone would come from that. For me, she was just never a wrestler. I mean, she tried, but she had zero skill.
Yeah, Jacqueline pretty much carried her.
Yeah, Jacqueline or Ivory would carry her. My pick is someone who I looked at the list. I didn't of it people who have been inducted in. It's really surprising she is not on there. But the daughter of Mad Dog Vachon.
Luna.
Luna Vachon was tough as hell. I mean, you just looked at her, and that was a chick you did not want to fight. Scary as hell. Her promos were really
voice was even crazy.
Yeah, her voice was crazy, and she got a lot of that from her family. I mean, she came from kind of a forgotten about wrestling family, the Vachons.
Yeah. Butcher Vachon. All those
was kind of iconic in a way for wrestling fans purely by her look, because her look was very unique.
Yeah.
Her promos were kind of Ultimate Warrior crazy. Didn't really understand them, but and she knew how to wrestle, and she knew how to brawl, most of all. That's something you never see from a standpoint as a brawler.
She could manage, too. She had a memorable, at least to me, run with the artist formerly known as Goldust. They did some of the weirdest segments ever in WWE.
That stuff was crazy weird, and I think that was actually Vince McMahon just trying to see what he could get away with.
Yeah, they pushed the envelope. I know they had an S&M type segment once.
Ball gag.
Yeah.
Dressing as a giant. It was like a fetish role for every different week where you can explore a new weird fetish.
And that's groundbreaking TV at the time.
It was. And Luna Vachon, I really do think she should have been in there a while ago, especially with her father being in there.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of a toss-up. But for me, I think she definitely deserves it.
I agree with you.
So let's move on to our tag team category.
All right. And my pick is I'm shocked they're not in yet. They really should be. I picked them because in Dallas, they were possibly the hottest heels in the history of the city with their feud with the Von Erichs, and that's the Fabulous Freebirds.
It is.
It's
I definitely go with that.
Michael P.S. Hayes, Buddy Roberts, Terry Gordy, Jimmy
Terry
Garvin.
Gordy. Rest in peace, Terry Gordy.
Yeah, those guys, the Revolutionary. I think they were the first to come up with theme music. They came out with, obviously, Freebird.
USA?
Yeah, they had Bad Street USA later. Originally, Freebird.
Originally Freebird, which makes sense given their name, but yeah. And then they did Bad Street USA, which Michael Hayes loves to sing. He just had an album recently.
Nice.
I haven't listened to it, and I'm scared to, but
I like Michael Hayes' fashion.
Yeah.
Still sporting the belly bag, the fanny pack.
Oh, God.
But in special events, he dresses kind of like if Colonel Sanders was a pimp. I would say is Michael Hayes' fashion, but man, his I guess you would call him a stable. Sort of.
Yeah,
a stable.
Well, they were tag team champions, but they ran the belts with Freebird rules, which I loved, which any member of the Freebirds can interchange themselves into the championship match. And I thought to myself, I really wish they would have done that with the Shield.
That would have been awesome.
I think that really would have worked well with the Shield, because with the Shield you had 3 different wrestlers that were incredibly 3 different styles.
Yeah.
And so you can have so many different tag team combinations that way. And props to the Shield, because they were one of the hottest things ever.
Yeah. But they owe a lot to the Freebirds.
They do owe a lot to the Freebirds, and they know that.
Yeah.
Especially Ambrose and Rollins, who were solid indie workers well before getting any kind of WWE attention. They know and I think indie workers generally have a better appreciation for the history of wrestling.
Yeah.
Because they got into it because they started watching it at a very early age.
And you have to study tapes and things too to really hone your craft.
You do. And the Freebirds were so revolutionary in some of their heel tactics. They were incredibly hot in the Dallas territory versus the Von Erichs. The Von Erichs needed a perfect foil for their family, and the Freebirds were definitely them. They were hot. People hated them, just loathed the Freebirds whenever they came in, wearing a sparkly Confederate flag cape. And
at the Dallas, Sportatorium was the... I think it was
the old Dallas Sportatorium.
But that's definitely... they're long overdue. Michael Hayes has been behind the scenes. I know he was the head writer on SmackDown for quite a long time. A lot of contributions.
A lot of stroke in the company, and he's been a very loyal employee.
He put up with Doc Hendricks. that alone.
Yeah.
So who would you pick?
My pick. Again, I reviewed this, and I'm surprised they're not in there. Because one of them has passed away, and the other one is bound to a wheelchair.
Ooh.
And that would be the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite.
Dynamite Kid.
Yeah, they were Dynamite Kid, man. Tragic story, and almost tragic, but also in the same time not, because Dynamite Kid is legend, but kind of legend for the wrong reason.
Hyper aggressive, right?
Hyper aggressive, had a Napoleon complex due to his short stature, mean as anything, and was generally a bully behind the scenes. Loved to bully people, loved to get on that, and it didn't help that he was injecting every steroid and drug that the 80s had to offer into his body.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff was legal at the time.
Steroids were legal, of course, and every kind of performance enhancer, but also didn't help that, they were doing coke and whatever else, during the age of excess.
Yeah.
And every wrestler during that time has a Dynamite Kid story. Unfortunately, none of them are good. Even Mick Foley.
Yeah.
Foley's first WWF match. The British Bulldogs beat the crap out of him.
That's back when Foley was an enhancement talent on the taping.
Yeah, enhancement. Fancy term for jobber.
Yeah. Jabroni.
Yeah, jabroni, and Davey Boy Smith, not only, were the British Bulldogs tag team champions multiple times with WWE, was also Intercontinental champion, one of the best SummerSlam matches of all time against his brother-in-law, Bret Hart.
In his native country.
His native country at Wembley Stadium, who I'm surprised isn't in there either. I'm really kind of shocked by that because he was a big part of professional wrestling.
He main evented quite a few pay-per-views with various people.
Yeah, he did, and he their style of wrestling brought a lot of attention because Davey Boy was one of the first really big men, and he was agile as a cat, especially for a guy his size.
Yeah.
And Dynamite Kid's in-ring work, nobody had ever seen anything like that. Fast, incredibly strong, and incredibly risky.
It's more of a Chris Benoit / Daniel Bryan style if you haven't seen him before. I'd compare it to probably those two guys.
I would compare it more to Benoit because everything about Chris Benoit was modeled after the Dynamite Kid.
Yeah. To his detriment in life, really.
Yeah, everything. And unfortunately, that's the way it followed, that kind of abuse to your body. We all know the tragic story of Chris Benoit. We don't need to go re-delving into that. But unfortunately now, Dynamite Kid is wheelchair-bound and living on welfare in England. He's penniless, friendless.
It's kind of like one of those stories where you kind of reap where you sow, but still that doesn't discount. Yeah. It doesn't discount his contributions.
No, it doesn't, history. And I think he deserves an induction without a doubt. But only time will tell if that will ever happen. Because last I heard, his relationship with the WWE was not that great.
Yeah, he's still kept that aggressiveness. I would guess some bitterness now too, since he's not in the best shape physically or financially.
Next on my list, we got two more to go, and these are usually our top. Actually, three more. We got three more.
Four. Two more categories, but two of each.
Two more categories. Okay.
What's
our next category?
Next category is mid-carders.
Mid-carders. Okay.
Talking about guys that weren't steadily in the main event, but definitely left their mark, so to speak. And my first guy is the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, the Honky Tonk Man. Had the longest Intercontinental reign. He's not.
Honky's not in there.
Honky Tonk Man not in the Hall of Fame, believe it or not. Despite his epic Intercontinental title reign, still the record holder. Honky did the most with the least gimmick, I would say. He was basically an Elvis impersonator.
Yeah.
But
that was during one of those eras where everybody had a weird job.
Yeah. So I guess when he wasn't wrestling, he was performing in Vegas or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But he could get under that crowd's skin like very few people could.
Yeah, which was really weird given the ridiculous gimmick he was in.
But he made it work, Yeah,
and he lives his gimmick. I mean, definitely should be in the Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, one of the worst things that happened in his career, and his career was never the same after this, is when he hit Jake Roberts over the head with that guitar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, it wasn't honky. It was a real guitar. The shot went wrong, crippled Jake Roberts permanently.
Yeah, not like Christopher Reeve type cripple,
No.
but a lifelong injury, I would say.
Yeah, it was a
to Jake
lifelong
Roberts.
injury that, didn't help Jake's predilections for painkillers.
And booze and whatnot. But
no,
Honky
one of the biggest SummerSlam moments was Honky when during Warrior's Ascension.
Oh yeah, he put the Warrior over. Warrior,
Yeah,
I mean, Honky had the longest reign ever. Warrior came out and squashed him in like 30 seconds.
I don't even think it was 30. I think it was like 8.
Yeah, I mean, it was like boom, clothesline, splash, and that was over. That crowd went crazy. I think it was at the Garden. I think it was Madison Square. But that's my first mid-carder, who, like I said, I think he did more with less than anybody.
Okay.
And my other pick, another Intercontinental Champion, he had a sort of a main event run in WCW before he got injured, and that would be Ravishing Rick Rude.
Is Rude not in the Hall of Fame?
Rick Rude not in the Hall of Fame either.
Ow. Yeah. Rick Rude definitely deserving hell of a heel.
Oh, definitely. Like cut the music. I think he invented that. He
could definitely get under any guy's skin in the audience. Now, women generally kind of flock to him because dude was pretty.
He was cut, to say the least.
Yeah, even with his 70s porn stash and curly mullet. And he transcended even after that. He became part of DX later, like much later in his career.
Yeah, was the only person to appear on Raw and Nitro on the same night.
So horrible, and I think that actually might prevent from getting in the Hall of Fame because
Rude passed away a while ago. They can't hold that grudge forever.
You're telling me he can't hold a grudge?
He can, but I mean, it's hard to hold a grudge against a dead person, I think. That's just me. But I mean, Rick Rude helped get the Ultimate Warrior over. And like I said, he had a good run in WCW before an injury ended his career. He was a guy that was like going to be a main eventer, I think, but just didn't work out because of injury. But a tremendous worker, solid on the mic.
He was.
To me, unforgettable. Had his airbrush tights, custom to his opponent. He put a lot of effort into his character.
He did put a supreme amount of effort into his character. He understood the gimmick.
Yeah.
Had a great run with Jake Roberts.
Oh, definitely had Jake's wife spray painted on his tights.
Yeah, and that whole thing was phenomenal. Got Jake over as a babyface. Just a great run with him. He had the ability to get under anybody's skin. He was never a face.
No, and he and Heenan were magic together. That's one of the best manager wrestler combinations ever.
Yeah, because Rude didn't need a manager.
No,
Rude had a mouth on.
Yeah.
But when you put a great manager with somebody that can work magic can happen a lot of times.
Yeah. Just like we were talking about with CM Punk and Paul Heyman, it was sort of that dynamic.
Yeah, and Hogan really didn't need Jimmy Hart, but they worked well together for what they were.
Yeah.
My two mid-carders, I was actually able only to come up with one.
All right.
So I'll just go with Rick Rude as second because it's really a shame he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But my number one pick, Sean Waltman.
X-Pac / 1, 2, 3 Kid, 6.
/ the list goes on. The first time I noticed Sean Waltman is when he was the 1, 2, 3 Kid, and he went over on Razor Ramon.
He had been a jobber for several weeks leading up to that, so nobody expected him to win.
No. No one saw that coming. And in his career, he had a very long career.
Yeah.
He was really over when he was 1, 2, 3 kid, and he went over on Razor. That was a huge thing, too.
Yeah.
I remember watching that Monday Night Raw when that happened. I was just kind of blown away myself. But then he really repackaged himself in WCW with the NWO and became 6.
The beard helped a lot, or the goatee. Like that,
Yeah,
like completely changed his look. It was strange.
It was, and he was able to kind of take that 90s metal look.
Yeah.
That mid-90s metal look and kind of make it a little twisted for him. And it was really hard to stand out in the NWO during that time because, originally it was the first 3. You had Hogan, Hall, and Nash.
Yeah.
And then there are so many other members that became part of it, you forget about it.
He was the 6th member, hence 6. Well, it was also 1 + 2 + 3. But yeah, he was the sixth member of the NWO.
Yeah, and he was their only cruiserweight.
Yeah.
He had the cruiserweight title for a long time. Had a good run with Jericho. When Jericho was first really starting to shine in WCW in the cruiserweight division. Kid good work, but then he really came back strong after his WrestleMania, right after WrestleMania 14. Austin went over on HBK the following Monday. The DX had to reinvent themselves because Shawn Michaels was gone.
Yeah, he was gone for 4. He was gone for 4 years. So yeah,
so Shawn was gone. Hunter had to reinvent it. And the first person Hunter calls out was Sean Waltman, who returned as did he go by Sean Waltman or no? He went. I'm sorry, he came back as X-Pac.
Yeah, and he was to say why Hunter chose him. X-Pac was part of the Clique. 5 guys backstage: Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Sean Waltman. So the Clique sort of split off into NWO and D-Generation X. X-Pac was really the crossover guy. Went from NWO to D-Generation X.
That's right. And he went by X-Pac because he was after like 6, and then he started going by 6-Pac.
Yeah, and you can't come back to this 1, 2, 3 kid.
No,
you just can't.
Back at X. Cuts a great promo on Bischoff, which got over like crazy.
Yeah.
And then became that role with DX, which was great for him. That mid-Carter role, supporting cast member for that stable. And just had a really good and solid career after that. Unfortunately, after his contract expired, he kind of some personal things.
Well, he had a great run with Kane as a tag team.
He did, and a lot of people. I was listening to an interview with him and Jim Ross on Jim Ross's podcast, where he talks about that. Where people come up to him and say, "Man, I really loved it when you were a tag team partner with Kane." He's like, people still come up to him about that, and it only lasted like 6 months.
Yeah, but they were great together though.
They were
really
great.
were.
And I've always loved those tag teams where you had one incredibly strong guy and one skinny, quick, technical guy.
Yeah.
Like Owen and Davey Boy or a couple of others that worked really well like that. I thought their styles really complemented each other. It was like what Reigns and Rollins were doing in the Shield. So, Sean Waltman definitely should be on the list, despite all of his unfortunate personal issues.
But I think he's cleaned up a lot.
He's cleaned up a lot. He's straight and narrow, and I think he just got married, or he is getting married, or trying to reconnect with his kids, all that stuff.
And they reward guys for that. They rewarded Jake Roberts and Scott Hall, Razor Ramon last year. So, so good for X-Pac.
He's coming back.
It's not easy to do that. You know what I mean? Not easy to get your stuff together. So, props to X-Pac. So now we're moving on to main eventers. I have two guys, both from Texas. First off is JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield. Wrestled his last match at WrestleMania 25. Really had a solid mid-card career with the APA, the Acolytes. But then he went off on his own and created this sort of like J.R. Ewing / Ted DiBiase, like $1 Million Man gimmick, and just really took off with it.
Yeah, I get JBL, as much as I dislike him, because I think he is a bully.
Yeah. Probably not as bad as Dynamite Kid, but probably not much better.
But he was a world champion a few times.
A very long reign. Very long reign.
And that gimmick was really over. As part of the Acolytes, he was over. The clothesline from hell. Devastating clothesline.
Probably the best clothesline since Stan Hansen.
Yeah. But JBL definitely deserves a Hall of Fame spot. He's still with the company, doing announcing. Numerous. He's gotten himself in trouble a few times with the company. Most notably, when he started trying to get some heat in Germany.
Oh Lord!
And he started goose stepping on the outside of the ring. He didn't know that any goose stepping or saluting, because he also saluted in a non-section, is completely illegal in Germany.
Yeah, he
do not like to remember of their past. He also lost his job on MSNBC.
Yeah, you can't go on TV that was a live event, but you can't do that stuff. But he also was the catapult to getting John Cena as a main eventer. John Cena won his first world title for JBL at WrestleMania 21. And it's kind of like the Iron Sheik really launched Hulk Hogan. JBL really launched John Cena. And so he had a great run there, I think.
He did. And he completely deserves it. Now, my first top pick, because I know you and I are probably going to agree on our top pick.
Yeah.
The entire thing, but my second to top pick is Owen Hart.
Yeah, the King of Hearts.
No one deserves to be in the Hall of Fame on my list right now more than Owen. Literally, Owen gave his life for the business.
Yeah. Owen was amazing. It was kind of a curse that his brother was Bret Hart, in a way, because honestly, Owen was better getting heat. Mm-hmm. He was a high flyer, but he could get that crowd so mad.
He could, and just with the silliest of things. The blue blazer gimmick, was ridiculous, and he made it work.
Yeah.
His run with Bret off and on was tremendous. Little brother being overshadowed by big brother, classic story. They made it work. Owen was not only high flyer, but also incredibly technically sound. I'd say he was more solidly athletic than Bret.
Yeah. Bret was probably the better storyteller, I'd say, but athletically, I'd say Owen.
And Bret had a better look to him.
Yeah.
Long black hair, kind of better build, but Owen was a better athlete, hands down. And every story you or I have ever heard about Owen has been nothing but positive.
Everybody, he was a river, which for those that don't know that, what that is, he liked to play jokes on people on the road.
He did.
Kept morale up, pretty much.
Kept morale. He didn't drink, or if he did, he seldom went out. He was an incredible family man, very devoted to his wife and kids, as all stories go. And for those of you that don't know, unfortunately, his life was cut short in 1999 at the Over the Edge pay-per-view in Kemper Arena in Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas City.
Kansas City. He was coming down, supposed to rappel down from the rafters on a bungee device to enter the ring, kind of flying in on a cape.
It's kind of like Sting had done it in WCW quite a few times.
Yeah,
something
and
similar.
Shawn Michaels done similar things with zip lines and whatnot. It's not like it hadn't been done before, but unfortunately, his harness came loose and he fell 50 feet, hit the turnbuckle, and died at the hospital within half an hour.
Yeah.
Incredible tragedy. I was actually watching that pay-per-view live, and just in stunned silence of the crowd, and just the emotion in Jim Ross's voice having to report that. And I think the biggest reason right now he's not in the Hall of Fame yet is because of his wife. His wife detests Vince McMahon, and with good reason. I don't blame her. She lost her husband.
Going off that Over the Edge, do you think they should have ended the show, or do you think they should have continued?
It's a tough call. It's a really tough call. If it were me, I would have ended the show. But Vince McMahon, I don't think even Vince McMahon was thinking about the show has to go on.
No.
I think it was just like, let's get Owen in the hospital and see where we are.
I think if it was a Raw, it would have ended. The problem is that people already paid, $30, $40?
If Raw were ending, because it was just kind of, that's something that has never happened.
Yeah.
And we don't know what to do, and we're just going to try to take this step by step and see what we're doing. I mean, and obviously I don't think it was a matter of damage control. I mean, the harness just broke. It was a complete tragedy, and they were just trying to figure out what the hell to do because everybody was in shock.
Yeah. They're playing denial. They're probably like, oh, he'll be okay. He'll be okay.
Yeah, and I thought he'd be okay, like, oh, there's an accident. And, unfortunately that came around. And I remember when I was at school, I was wearing a black armband that said OH on it for a week. A lot of people were.
Yeah.
A lot of people in my school were, because a lot of us saw that when it happened. It was tragedy beyond words. And if Vince could come to terms with Martha, she won't talk to, as far as I've been told, won't speak to Brett or any of the other side of the family.
Yeah.
Stuff more. Seems and I see why, but if anybody deserves it, it's definitely Owen.
Definitely. I'm a big fan of Owen Hart. I've been watching his work recently. Just the way it's the little things that he do that would just get people's ire.
Yeah. It's here that when he was in the ring, even as a face, he was so technically sound. Very sharp and very on it. Especially, he was a bigger guy. He wasn't huge, but for as quick and nimble as he was not a thin man.
No, he was he was pretty stout.
He was pretty stout. His father thought he would make the Olympic team.
Yeah.
And he probably could have if he didn't want to be a pro wrestler, but that's unfortunately his life turned out. But no one will ever forget him.
No, definitely not.
So we'll go to our top pick.
Our top pick being in Texas.
One man who's had a storied career.
The backbone. I'd say the backbone of WWE.
Yeah, the backbone, the moral compass of the locker room. Probably the greatest big man.
Also the greatest, I'd say the greatest character too.
Greatest gimmick.
Yeah.
Of all time. What could have been a horribly campy and forgettable gimmick has lasted over 2 decades.
Yeah.
Now, and ladies and gentlemen, we are speaking about The Undertaker. The Undertaker originally was just supposed to be, an Undertaker from the Wild Wild West. Originally managed not by Paul Bearer, but by...
introduced by Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase, and then his first manager was Brother Love.
Yes.
I love you.
As goofy as Brother Love was, Paul Bearer fit it much better.
Oh, definitely.
And, you'd think of the name The Undertaker and Paul Bearer, so goofy sounding, but they made it work. And Taker was a scary looking guy.
The kids were scared of him. I remember going to shows, and of course, seeing him on TV, and kids were just like open-jawed, like in awe of this guy.
Long hair, no expression, pale as can be. And when I was a kid, I was enamored with him. I was flat out enamored. He became my favorite the first time I saw him. Just so dark and malevolent and monstrous and unstoppable. I loved it.
He was kind of like a supervillain, like torn right out of the comic books.
Yeah.
Like he could have been like a Batman villain or something.
He definitely could have. I can see a lot of villains, and a lot of wrestlers have taken their cues from Undertaker. I know I have. And countless others. I mean, he's iconic for his gimmick. And the fact that, and this really stands to testament for him, he was always reinventing himself.
Yeah,
always.
You have to have longevity in any entertainment field. You have to have.
And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people try to ride out their gimmick.
Yeah.
And that's not the way it works. You have to keep on coming up with new original things. And the changes are always very subtle. But eventually they built up and built up and built up.
Originally, he was the Wild West Undertaker, like you said. They turned it up. He was more supernatural.
Yeah.
That got to a point where he was like, he started to believe the gimmick that he was the Undertaker and thought he had the Ministry of Darkness.
That became the Satanic Undertaker. He actually doesn't really like that part of his career for whatever reason. He just thought it was too over the top or something. It's not something he thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah,
that was more.
At the time, it took that character as far to the right as it could get, like as far this way.
Like you don't go farther than becoming.
Yeah, and then he got hurt for a while. He came back, and I was actually at this show, Judgment Day of 2000, and he came back as a biker.
Yeah, came back as the underbiker, more or less. Riding Harley, coming out to Kid Rock,
and he made it work.
Yeah, it was believable. Like this guy is a biker, and in real, he is a biker in real life.
Yeah.
And you just saw him tearing ass on a Harley.
But he believed it, so everybody else believed it.
Yeah.
Like he could have rolled out on that bike and everybody could have started laughing. But no, because he had the respect of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And B, because he believed it.
And I was lucky enough to be at WrestleMania 17, and that was his first WrestleMania as, Biker Taker.
Yeah.
And that was the first match he had in a very long time, because you look at most of his WrestleMania matches.
Yeah.
Most of them were pretty bad in early on.
Yeah, the one before that one was the Big Boss Man match.
Oh, God.
Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, and
he missed 16 because he was hurt. That's in between the Devil gimmick and this one.
Did he miss 16?
Yeah, he was out that year.
Yeah, I thought it was continuous.
No, he missed 16. He missed 10. He's hurt for 10, hurt for 16.
But he had that 17 was the first match he had with Triple H at WrestleMania, And that was the start of actually having good matches at WrestleMania.
Yeah, that was the first of a trilogy of matches with Triple H at that.
Yeah. It spread out over, a decade. But that began his storied career being able to just kind of wrestling and going against guys who could actually give him a decent match instead of guys like Yokozuna, John Gonzalez, guys that are way too big.
Because we never had an idea he could do that because he came across more of like a stiff type, like Diesel or that type of guy. He worked a lot of MMA into his moveset.
Yeah, he worked his first title, I think, was at 13, where he took the title from Sid Vicious.
That was his. He'd won it before from Hogan, but that ended in like a day.
Oh, okay, I'm not counting now.
Yeah, it was his first real run with the title.
Tuesday in Texas, so Hogan could get his ego back.
But it's his first real run with the title. Yeah, it was at 13.
Which that match was horrible. And thank God he was able to come back and reinvent himself. And then after the biker gimmick played out for a while, he disappeared for a while again.
Yeah, he lost a Buried Alive match, I think, with Vince. I think Kane, his storyline brother, helped Vince McMahon beat him in a Buried Alive match. So they buried the biker Taker alive.
And then he came back next WrestleMania, Return of the Dead Man.
WrestleMania 20.
Yeah, you just, the lights hit down, and first thing you heard was, oh, yes!
Paul Bearer
coming across the speakers, and then, dum.
People really wanted that. At this point, people were starting to miss that character.
Yeah. And that's a great mark of your character, is like, you've been gone, and now people want you back.
Because it needed a break from that satanic. You can't go from the Satanic Undertaker and then just the next week go back to the. You can't just push reset.
Reset, no, and he understood that. Vince understood that too, and it worked well. It worked really well for him, and he got to come back. And now, ever since then, he's been, past 8 years or maybe longer. He's only been wrestling right around WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And he's much older now. His body cannot take a 300 days on the road a year schedule, and he's earned it.
Yeah, he's definitely earned it.
Some people have a problem with part timers, but the thing is, Taker draws money at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I'm usually not too into the main event. I'm always wanting to see an Undertaker match.
And a lot of times that is the main event.
A lot of times it is, or at least it's up next to main. The championship belt should always be main event.
Yeah. But the streak was a close number too.
The streak was what Mania was about, and I'm still mad about Lesnar. I mean, at least Lesnar taking the streak, they were able to run with it.
Yeah.
I just feel like CM Punk should have taken it the year before.
I agree. Another Undertaker WrestleMania moment, 25 with Shawn Michaels, maybe the best match ever.
25 with Shawn Michaels. His match with, I think it was 24.
With Edge?
24, 23. Whichever one was with Flair.
Flair was 18 in Toronto.
Yeah, that match with Flair was a great match. I usually watched that with a bunch of friends of mine, and they were all really mad that Flair did not go over in that match. And my whole reasoning was, one, it preserved the streak, but two, Flair didn't need it.
No. Flair was part-time at that point. He was just coming back to WWE.
Yeah.
He was like co-owner of the company or something was the story. But Undertaker requested a match with Flair, and Flair was I've heard really touched by that because he thought his run was over.
Yeah.
And that really restored a lot of faith in the Nature Boy.
Flair is an icon, and of course, the Undertaker being the Undertaker wanted a match with the Icon. I don't think they had ever really hooked up in a main event, and that match was really, really good. Solid all the way down. In fact, you even had Arn Anderson throwing a spine buster on the Taker during that match.
Good old Double A.
Which Arn Anderson honestly could have ended up paralyzed from doing that.
Yeah.
His back and arm are so screwed up, but he managed to do it. So you had that, and he's been wrestling, and he's put over numerous guys. He put over the Shield.
Oh yeah,
He came back not at WrestleMania, but just during the year and did a small, couple of weeks series with the Shield. Really put them over, and he understands giving back to the business.
Yeah, he's supposed to be back this year with Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt's been calling him out and calling him out. Did nothing still happen past Monday night?
No, the Undertaker hasn't responded. But do you think he'll be in Dallas?
Yeah, I really hope so. I don't want this to be his last year. I think he deserves a hometown crowd to go out to.
Kind of like Ric Flair Hall of Fame on Saturday, last match on Sunday.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I would hate for his match with Lesnar to be his last match because that match was horrible.
Yeah.
Not really his fault or Lesnar's fault. Taker ended up with a concussion 2 minutes into the match.
Yeah, that pretty much, you can't really work through that very well.
No, you can't. I mean, you can try and try. I've done it. It wasn't pretty.
Yeah.
And mine wasn't nearly as severe as Taker. You watch that match, he's just knocked silly.
Yeah.
The lights are on, but nobody's home.
It's kind of like a Foley at Hell in a Cell. But at least at Hell in a Cell, they had no DQ, which you can sort of, you can milk some time.
Well, that and you had Taker in the ring with Foley, Taker being a ring general.
Yeah.
Knowing what to do to cover for him.
Yeah, Brock doesn't really have that
Brock
skill
is
set.
not a ring general, let's be honest.
Yeah, he doesn't have that skill set. He's a lot. Brock Lesnar's a lot of things. The ring general, not one of them.
Not his wheelhouse.
Yeah. So who would you say Undertaker if he does have one last match in his home state? Who's his opponent?
Somebody who really needs it. This year looks like he's going to be wrestling Bray Wyatt, so it's not going to be Bray.
Yeah.
Hard to tell. I mean, we would just have to kind of see where the wrestling landscape is next year.
I'm thinking it's going to be Sting.
No, Sting doesn't need it.
He doesn't need it, but I'm saying they'll probably. I'm thinking Sting will beat Triple H this year at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean Triple H has the biggest losing streak when it comes to WrestleMania of all time.
Well, Sting needs that one win in WWE. He can't lose his first match.
Well, I just don't know. I don't think Sting needs it. I would rather see somebody younger and hungry and proven.
Roman Reigns.
No, not Roman Reigns. Rollins.
I could see
Ambrose.
What about Cena?
Cena doesn't need it. You know that.
I know he doesn't need it, but
Cena's on the tail end of his career, man.
I'm aware of that.
So no, Cena no, but Rollins, Ambrose. If I'm looking at NXT, I'd say Sami Zayn. But
I'd say Owens would play over Zayn.
I got personal stock in Sami Zayn, man.
Yeah, the El Generico. He's doing well down in NXT. I'm just saying that for his, it's.
We're talking about the landscape next year, man.
I know. I'm saying it's. Zayn is such a babyface type personality. I think.
No.
I've never seen him heel. I guess is the problem.
Maybe Daniel Bryan.
Depending on his health. No, we're not sure how.
Bryan's strong right now, man.
You think he's 100%?
Yeah, I don't think he'd been back otherwise.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because it's like a lot of fans don't realize when Stone Cold Steve Austin got his neck broken, that match with Owen Hart, Like before that, he was a tremendous worker. Like if you watch his Stunning Steve stuff and his like '96 WWF stuff, tremendous. And then this neck injury.
Watch his match with Brett.
Yeah.
Brett at WrestleMania 13, Blood from a Stone. Great match. One of Austin's best iconic match. But you're right, he was never the same after that neck injury.
It changed his style up to like a brawler, but
he had to change his style.
Yeah, he didn't have a choice.
And I respect that, and he carried on and made it work.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, I'm worried Daniel Bryan. I don't think Daniel Bryan could work as a brawler. I think he has to work his style. Because he's a smaller guy than Steve.
Yeah. And you're right. And he's still doing it. He's still doing diving headbutts, so.
Yeah.
I wish he wouldn't. I think he could leave that part out.
Yeah, because, I mean, if we talked earlier about Dynamite Kid, who, actually, Harley Race created that move.
Yeah, Harley's the only one who's, like, in still working condition.
Dynamite ruined his health over it. That was
Benoit,
that probably was a culprit in Benoit's tragedy.
Yeah, it was. Along with all the other things Benoit was doing, like with chair shots to the head repeatedly. And
I think they should ban it, honestly. If they ban, like, the pile driver, I think they
stop doing diving headbutts.
Yeah.
Well, if you also notice when DB does a drop kick, he kind of lands on the back of his neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just his style. It's how he's done things. We're getting off topic here, but
yeah. The Undertaker, I think he has. I think next year he'll it's his last ride, so to speak.
Yeah, it's time for the last ride. Hopefully Vince, having Vince McMahon induct you is a top honor.
Yeah.
For being inducted.
Only Stone Cold's had that before, right?
Yeah, and with that much money, Hogan didn't even have that.
No, he had who's he, like Stallone, I think.
Yeah, Stallone inducted him.
Yeah,
which is really weird. Definitely, I can't think of anybody better than. Honestly, I would have said Paul Bearer, but unfortunately, lost Paul Bearer last year. So definitely Vince McMahon. Kane would be a second runner-up.
Yeah, long history together.
Long history. Undertaker's pretty much responsible for Kane having a job.
Oh, yeah, because, before that, Kane was the fake Diesel. Well, before that, he had the Isaac Yankem.
And Kane has become an iconic character since that. Was that Bad Blood?
Yeah, the first Hell in a Cell.
And Michaels.
And he's basically an Undertaker spinoff.
Yes, and he became his own character and has survived 20 years.
Yeah, definitely. So props to Glenn Jacobs to Kane also. The Undertaker is...
Jacobs is another shoe-in Hall of Famer later on.
Yeah, for sure. But the Undertaker, is definitely... He's kind of in a category of his own, almost. Like, he never was the mainstream like a Hulk Hogan. But
no, he had one movie under his belt.
But he carried that ball. He helped carry that ball for so long.
He did, and he never jumped ship.
Yeah, he's kind of the Atlas of the WWE. Kind of like held the company up.
Yeah, he did. He never jumped ship. He constantly believed, even when things were at their worst.
Yeah,
he didn't flail.
He kept that locker room straight too.
He did. He was the judge in all wrestling court decisions. When it came down to disagreements between workers, Taker presided over the disagreement and handed down judgment. And anybody who didn't pay up, Taker would go looking for him. And that's one guy I would not want looking for me.
No, not at all. I guess one last thing on the Undertaker. At the Hall of Fame, do you want him to be the Undertaker, or do you want him to be Mark Calloway, the man behind the Undertaker?
It's kind of a hard call, but the way the Undertaker's been the past couple of years, he's kind of bridged the gap.
Yeah.
So I can see him doing both. I don't see him wearing a tuxedo.
No.
I kind of see. I would even settle for him just like rolling out on a Harley one more time, just for the induction ceremony.
Yeah. But it's such a hard thing because it's like more so than any other character of the modern times, he's protected that character.
Yes. And I've seen a couple of different interviews with him that he's done in the past, and it's very weird, but he always kind of stays in that mindset, and that just might be his typical self.
Yeah.
And you really don't know how, the greatest gimmicks are an extension of one's personality.
So it'd be interesting to see how they do it because, like I said, it's a hard call to make. Do you go out as the Undertaker? Do you go out as yourself? I'd kind of like to see him as the Undertaker and just have a supernatural disappearance, and then he's gone. I don't want to see him pop up in Raw in 10 years.
No, I don't need. Well, maybe once in a while, just a splash, when it's really needed.
Yeah.
The ghost of all things trouble just comes back, not to wrestle, because he knows his knees are numbered.
But maybe as a guide type. Marvel Universe, you have Uatu the Watcher.
Yeah, always shows up in times of great peril.
That could work for that character, for the Undertaker, if he reappeared.
Or when he gets special enforced, you never know. I mean, Mark Calloway will be in the annals till the end of time as far as wrestling is concerned.
As far as a gimmick, I don't think that will ever be topped.
It won't be, and I'll tear up when I know. I mean, you know how mad I was, and a lot of people know how mad I was when the last match happened with Lesnar, because I thought that was the end.
I'll say this about Lesnar, because neither one of us are big fans. Brock Lesnar's a physical phenomenon, but his heart's not in the wrestling business.
No, his heart is.
He'll tell people he's there for the money.
And he will tell people that, but I also heard, and I do give Lesnar credit for this, that he had a problem with losing to Taker at first when they told him he was going to. I heard, it's rumor and all conjecture, but I heard he had too much respect for the Undertaker.
Yeah.
To lose to him. And everything I heard about that, too, it was a game time decision. Vince McMahon made that call 4 hours before the start of Mania.
That's a hard decision for Vince, too, really.
Yeah, but he wanted some, WWE Network had just launched.
Yeah. And really,
so
if he has a match with Bray Wyatt this year, I don't think Bray is losing anything by not challenging the streak. It's still the Undertaker. That's still a huge spot.
And it's a money spot. Bray's going to make personally a lot of money off it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a huge spot. It's an iconic spot, and Bray's been doing the supernatural gimmick for a bit now. So it's kind of, I think it's a passing of the torch.
Yeah, a lot of people think Bray Wyatt is the successor to the supernatural gimmick, I guess.
Yeah.
He has his own spin on it, of course, but yeah, I can see how this is going to be a passing of the torch.
It will be, and he's definitely going to come down on that. But when it happens, and I do think it'll happen next year, it's going to be one for the books.
Yeah, especially if they cram 6 figures worth of people in that stadium. I mean, that's storybook.
Yeah, you want a sellout crowd, put Taker in Dallas.
When Taker first came in, he came in at the end of the Hogan era, where business was bad, and he leaves he leaves the industry filling a 100,000 stadium. That's storybook to me.
It is, and his story will be forever in the annals, and no one deserves it more than Taker.
Yeah, definitely.
And I guess that wraps it up for our picks for next year's Hall of Fame. Hopefully, we'll be back soon with another podcast.
Yep, we hope you've enjoyed the last few, and we'll be around with something fresh.
Of course we will, and I hope you all have a great day.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.